Welcome everybody to another episode of Haunted Vermont. My name is Paul Doski, and this is Ryder for people watching the video. He's being a little shithead. Aaron can vouch for that. And anyway, today we have a special guest from all the way from Texas, and he is a crew member of Small Town Monsters. So none other than Aaron Deese. Aaron, welcome aboard.
Hello, thank you, Paul. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to talking with you.
Yes, and I'm just trying to remind myself half the time, because last that I kind of talked with you, sort of, somewhere there's a Steve. I'm trying to figure out where Steve is.
Oh my God, I knew that was going to come up. So I have a problem with names, and I've done this on film shoots where I'm talking with interviewees and I refer to them as the wrong name. Yep. And then I have to note in the timestamps to take that part out. And then I also have to go back and apologize to that person and say, hey, that was not me intentionally being disrespectful to you. I'm just really stupid. So apologies for that, for calling you Steve. What it is I figured it out. This is my excuse. We interviewed Steve Coles the same week we interviewed you in Vermont. And so but it hasn't happened since then, as far as I can remember.
No, it seems like your brain finally programmed from that live stream.
I am sorry about that. Now that we're actually talking and it's not just a chat, that helps too. But no, I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, no, dude. I just found it funny because I'm like, who the fuck is Steve? I'm like,
there's no Steve, and I was like, oh my God, I did it again.
yeah, it's all good, dude. No, I figured I'd bust your balls on that, but that's all right. No, I just find it funny. Just for the record, I'm bad with names. I'm better with faces myself. So I am definitely one of those people anyway, Aaron, where somebody that I even went to school with can come up to me and be like, hey, Paul, and I'll be like, hey.
Dude, I do that too. I'm like, I know you. I have memories with you. What's your name again? Like, oh.
Yeah, I don't even get that far. I'm just like, yeah, hey, how's it going? Yeah. And then after walked away, I'm like, oh.
Who was that? I don't know.
I don't know. No, I don't remember. Carry on. Yeah. So, real quick, Aaron, let's begin with some simple things, I think, before we really delve into some topics here. So, since you're new here and this is your first time, I want to know your beginning, and which is what interested you enough to delve into this mysterious beyond of the unknown.
Yeah, it's the unsolved or the paranormal, the mysterious, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of always been an interest for me. Like, my mom watched a lot of Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack when I was a kid. Like, I think a lot of people in our generation saw that as children. And I remember distinctly enjoying the UFO, paranormal, Bigfoot episodes the most. And now it's funny, in my current career, I reference that for research fairly often because there were episodes like the Chupacabra where they were on the ground in Puerto Rico talking to original witnesses. You can't find those testimonies anywhere. So that's kind of funny. But, and then in high school and junior high, as the internet's becoming a thing, I was looking for cryptozoology stuff online. I think I had a GeoCities page once that was just quote unquote pictures of different cryptids, and it's like the surgeon photo, Nessie, frame 352 from the PG film, all those pictures that we've all seen, if we've spent any time in the paranormal world, quote unquote. And then in high school, being exposed to the Mothman prophecies, I read the book right around the time the film came out, and saw it with two friends, one of whom has since passed away. I found out very recently, actually, just found that out. And it just kind of changed the way I thought about the world. I knew the movie was fiction. I knew it was adapted from the book. And then I read the book and I was like, look, even if none of this actually happened the way all these witnesses are saying that it did, which seems unlikely, people think it happened. And that's fascinating to me. The possibility that any of this stuff could be real has just always fascinated me. So then during the pandemic, like a lot of us, I was looking for something to do. And paranormal documentaries and books became kind of my bread and butter for a while. That's what I did with all my spare time. And that led me to starting a podcast with my wife, which ultimately led to me meeting the guys over at Small Town Monsters, which led to what I do for a living every day now. So that's it.
That podcast, it's Hey Strange or something. I'm trying to remember, Strangery or something.
Hey Strangeness. Yeah.
Strangeness.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's no longer active. I haven't done an episode in like
forever.
Well over a year. I have some plans to do some stuff, but I always have plans to do some stuff. Not to be confused with High Strangeness, an excellent show by my friend Steve Berg. Different show entirely, very active and ongoing. If you listen to that, that's not my show. I don't know how you could think that, because Steve is incredibly funny and talented. Maybe that's where I got Steve. Maybe you remind me of Steve Berg.
Maybe.
Well, he's one of my favorite people, so that's a compliment. But yeah, it's not ongoing right now. It was a passion project, and now all the stuff I was doing over there, I'm doing at STM, and so I put most of my podcasty energy in that basket right now. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you about your writing. So I guess you could elaborate a little bit more with that. What kind of got you with writing anyway?
Writing is another one of those things. It's just kind of always been either in the background or something I would do regularly, depending on what phase of my life I was in. And by always, I mean since like probably junior high school. I wasn't writing soliloquies at age 5 or anything. But my mom was is an author. And one of my great uncles is a guy named Homer Croy, who was a prolific author in the mid 1900s. A lot of his work was adapted into movies back in the day. You know, a lot of people today haven't heard of him, and I wouldn't expect them to. But just like writing and storytelling has been in my family for a long time. And so growing up around that, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And when I kind of stumbled into the paranormal world as a hobby, it kind of became a natural thing. Like, yeah, let's try to write a book at some point. I didn't think it was going to be about the topic it was, or at the time that it was. I thought it was something I would do in like maybe my late 50s or something. But you know, life happens. So.
So, was your first book with Small Town Monsters, or was it before?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. So far, all my published work has been with Small Town Monsters. I was working with a paranormal magazine for a little bit, for about a year before I started working with STM. And that organization no longer exists and went out under not the best circumstances when it shuttered, which is its own thing. But that was the only other thing I had ever really published outside of this stuff with STM. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I must have found your old bio then, because it had that paranormal.
Yeah, magazine. That's in a lot of the old bios. I don't mention it anymore because it's so far removed from what I'm doing now. It's not something it wasn't my best work ever, you know. So I don't really mention it.
Hey man, you always gotta start somewhere, I guess.
Right? Yeah. I had a great time there. I made some great friends. I'm really proud of the work we did. You know, but sometimes people do things beyond your control, and you just have to move on with your life and remember the good times. So, and if there's anyone who happens to hear this who's familiar with all that, they know what all that means. And if they don't, it's not an interesting story at all and not worth considering. I'm not being sarcastic. It really is not an interesting story. So, but phases of life, and that was a fun phase. So.
Well, you live and you learn, and unfortunately, that sounds like a time where you definitely learned.
I did, yeah. We can talk about it Mike sometime, but
yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, I remember when I appeared on some like guests and stuff, and I always, when I get asked the question, like, you know, kind of like with you, like the beginning of, you know, what got you into the paranormal. I always say that the paranormal found me. I wasn't looking for it. Mm-hmm. And but I also remember when, you know, as life was going on later on, because my childhood wasn't the greatest, especially when my parents kind of divorced and went separate ways, and my dad was having some PTSD from the Vietnam War and all this stuff. But one thing I ended up remembering later on in life is that my dad used to share with me how much he like the idea of that there was something more beyond, the realm that we know too.
Mhm.
And which is why, I kind of wish he was still around so I could talk to him more and get more details out of some of the things he would say, like a UFO carrying a cow, which maybe might have been something that I later on learned after starting like Haunted Vermont and learning the weird stuff that goes around this dark state half the time is like there's a farm where all these cows mysteriously died, and it's like, well, maybe was it that or was it somewhere else,
Mhm.
and then he told me about like a possible Sasquatch sighting thing from West Rutland, and it's just crazy because it was on like a private camp. God knows, where that private camp is, but I personally been to it, but I was so young, I can't remember where it was or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still kind of remember like what the cabin or the house, whatever, looked like and stuff like that. But other than that, I couldn't tell you where it was. So, and I still vaguely remember like what my dad told me about that. But and I think it implanted with me just because seeing the actual location of where this private camp was really helped, you know, make my young kid kind of be like, huh, that's interesting, So I guess
Mhm.
in a way, I would like to think my dad helped me kind of also want to be like, okay, Dad, you're watching way too much sci-fi, or stop watching Tremors or something,
Yeah.
So, yeah, but sadly, my dad passed in like 2003, so I could never really get that point to really be able to sit down and be like, hey, what do you remember of
Yeah.
of all this mysterious stuff? But yeah, it is what it is, and I mean, if that's the way I basically have to carry on my dad's stories, then so be it.
Yeah.
Um, like when I was talking to Bruce Howenback, I was mentioning to him like how I had to take one of my dad's old books, and
Oh, that's
inside this,
cool. I've heard of that.
yeah, I did it from Paul Bartholomew
Mhm.
and Bruce Howenback,
I was gonna
who
say, I
did a
know
chat.
that. I know that title. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't see it right now, but inside this book, which was like I said, my dad had kept a newspaper article from the Rutland Herald, and it's entitled "Is There a Vermont Bigfoot?" So I have it framed and on my wall right now just to keep that newspaper clipping.
That's
So,
cool, man. Yeah, that's cool that you have that stuff from him.
but yeah, I mean, that I guess you could say that really helped in a way of me getting into it. Besides the fact of learning like what death really was, like in 1994, or my mother's grandfather had passed away, and then literally a year later, in June of 1995, within like a 24-hour time, I had lost a uncle and a grandfather, or maybe it was vice versa. But yeah, within 24 hours, I had lost like two other people.
Oh
Like,
man. Yeah.
yeah. So, like I said, my life has not been the greatest with weird coincidences or something. It's been a roller coaster. I'll just say that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like it. Yeah.
Um. But So yeah. So here we are, Aaron. You know, Basically, you're here because as we were kind of talking before hitting the record button, thanks to this goddamn cat right here. Um. Anyway, that originally you were in Texas and they were up here in June of 2025
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But it sounded like it got so hectic that they literally had to call in reinforcement between you and Alex Petikoff to basically come in to, swoop in and basically help with whatever. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially it. This is a little this is stuff I enjoy talking about. The more I do this stuff, the more I like talking about the filmmaking and behind the scenes kind of stuff. But yeah, we're a small crew at STM. There's like less than 10 of us, and some of us are part-time. Like most of our team work full-time, and then we have some part-time folks who help us out as needed. But Seth described it at the time as an all hands on deck situation, because we were filming a season, or most of a season, of Sasquatch Unearthed, which ended up being Northwoods Bigfoot, similar to that book title, but different. Northwoods Bigfoot. We were also filming for the Kinderhook creature, which actually just came out. You can watch that one right now. And From the Beyond, High Strangeness in the Bennington Triangle, which my friend Paul, not Steve, is in. So it's great that we're talking now, because that film's coming out later this month. So, or maybe in the past by the time this airs. I don't know what your release schedule is. Doesn't matter. But my point is, we were filming 2 films and a whole series. And plus, Alex is always working on stuff too. Like, he's always filming for something, for BTT or Strange Places or Appalachian Bigfoot Files or whatever, So it was just like we needed more hands on cameras. I'm not in any of those shows that I just named, but I filmed at least 8 seconds of footage for each one of them. And I got to help conduct some of the interviews. And, trips like that for me are so fun, because one day I'll just be at the Airbnb interviewing people with Courtney and Heather. And then the next day I'm in the car with Alex for 8 hours driving to 3 different states to talk to 2 different people, and then the next day you're just filming B-roll. Shoots like that are a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a hectic, sort of chaotic situation. Like, we were split into 2 to 3 teams throughout the week, and then we'd regroup in the evening, and I'll just kind of collapse and fall asleep, and then get up the next day and do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, if memory serves me right, when I talked to Heather, and I think I have a note somewhere. Yeah, right here. I think Heather said something that you guys were literally working on not only the 2 films that you just mentioned, but like it was a total of 5 projects. So it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think we were still doing Heartland Sasquatch at that time, and we were just starting Northwoods, if my memory serves. So we were filming for multiple Sasquatch Unearthed, we call them. SUs, we call them, but the series is Sasquatch Unearthed. We were filming for multiple seasons of Sasquatch Unearthed, because once one ends, we only have so much time before we want to start the next one. And then those 2 films, plus the stuff Alex works on. Yeah. It's chaos in the best possible way. Like, yeah.
Amazing, dude. Well, even though, so I guess describe like your day. Like, so here's an idea that I could maybe help you with your timeline, maybe. So when it came to me being recorded for the questions and stuff, that was on June 22nd. So that was the Saturday, I think it was, because I think what happened was there was such a short notice that I didn't know if my job would even allow me to just like randomly take a partial day or something.
Yeah.
So I was just like, can we do like either a Saturday or Sunday, actually it was a Sunday. My bad. It was originally Saturday, and then Heather pushed it to Sunday, which was fine. So it worked out in the end either way. So I guess you must have came in sometime during the middle of the week then, I'm assuming?
I actually got in the next morning. I got there, I think, the day after the rest of the crew. So while they were interviewing you, I was probably changing planes somewhere, probably in Charlotte, because it's a cursed land that from which no light escapes, much like the black hole.
Nice.
Charlotte's a beautiful city. I've just been stuck in their airport 6 times, and I don't fly that much. But anyway, so I would have been changing planes somewhere, and then I got into the Cleveland airport very late, I think like midnight, and I crashed there. And then Alex's wife picked me up the next morning and drove me to link up with everybody else. So yeah, I would have been somewhere between sleeping at the airport and changing planes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Do want to reemphasize that Charlotte's a beautiful city. Nothing against Charlotte or its people. It's just that airport. So, not even the people in the airport, just the airport. So.
Well, get your shit together, airport, I guess. Whatever's going on here. Jeez, I'm crying. I mean, I know we have some airports, like one around here in North Clarendon, one in Burlington, and I'm trying to think, like for Bennington, were you coming at, so like when you were flying out from Vermont, were you going to New York, Massachusetts? Where were you flying out of?
I ended up flying back out of Boston. Actually,
Holy hell!
I caught a ride with Mr. Alex Pettikov because he's on his way back to New Hampshire, and he dropped me in Boston. So into Cleveland, down over to Vermont, up to Boston, back to Texas. Yeah.
What a ride, man! That sounds right. So before we switch gears for Bennington and stuff, there's a couple things that I had heard because I don't think you were on the podcast, but I know Seth, Heather, I can't think of the guy's name right now. Mark, I think maybe that's his name.
Mr. Matsky, Mark Matsky.
Yes. He was on the Monsteropolis podcast. Heather, I hope I said that right.
You did.
And anyway, it was the episode entitled "The Vermontan Edition." Amazing name. Anyway,
I might have come up with that name. I might produce that show when it's running, and I might have come up with that name. So I'll pass that on to the show producer that you liked the name. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. So in that episode, though, for the Vermontan edition, there was some interesting things that were said, and I just wanted to get your opinion because I didn't know if it was going on with you, but I know in one incident that was going on with an adventure that one time definitely involved you.
Yeah.
So the first thing I wanted to ask about was in that episode, it was mainly almost everybody. It was Heather, it was even Steph. They were talking about like how they felt Bennington had this weird vortex going on. Did you experience that as well?
Yeah, there was one particular occasion which you may have been planning to ask about, but the whole time I was there, time felt different. And you have to be honest, like anytime you travel and sleep in airports, your perception of time is going to be different. That's just a fact. Like changing your sleep rotation, throwing off your circadian rhythm. I spend 90% of my time at home with a 3-year-old. So you take me out of my box and I'm like a hamster. Everything is out of whack, but just being conscious of that and then also observing that like everybody else on the team seemed to be feeling the same way, or at least to some degree. And it wasn't like a dramatic thing where every night we sat down and we were like, what time is it? Like, no, but there were instances where someone would look up, and it was multiple times, where someone would look up and go, how long have we been here? And that may have been an interview site or maybe in the car on the way to somewhere, but it would feel like you had been there for so long, and you would look and it had only been 30 minutes. And then we'd have the inverse of that too, where it felt like, when we tried to drive up Glastonbury Mountain specifically, where I'm like, this doesn't feel like we've been gone that long. Like this is just a quick jaunt up and down, right? And I look, and it's been like 3 hours. We've been driving up and down this mountain, so there were just enough instances like that we all still talk about it sometimes. Like when it comes up, we'll be like, remember how weird time was there? And not even just, I just dropped my phone, not even just in like interviews or for podcasts and stuff, but even when we're just chit-chatting. We recently got back from a big shoot for On the Trail of UFOs season 2, and that came up a few times. Like, remember how weird time was, in Vermont? So, yeah.
The only person that was not present at that time was Shannon to experience that. So, I mean,
well, the OTTO shoot was huge. Like, it's the first time Jason Utez has been on a shoot with us in a while. Shannon, of course, doesn't get to go in a lot of these. So there were a couple of people on that trip who weren't in Vermont, but everybody who was seems to have a similar
experience.
Just a similar memory of it just feeling odd at times with regard to the passage of time. Yeah. And I could be wrong. Like I may sit down with Zach next time I see him and he'll be like, no, I knew what time it was at all times. But yeah, just from what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Heather was having fun with that when they were talking about you guys trying to go up to like the like some fire tower and how like you guys got to the top or whatever it was, and the gate was closed off, no trespassing and all that.
Yeah, we
And
spoke
then,
with. Sorry, no, go ahead.
no, what?
No, I was just. It's exactly that. Yeah, we spoke with another local who you'll see in the film who had some great stories to share. And I'm terrible with names and can't remember the gentleman's name right now. But he gave us directions to go up, and all his directions were correct, but the gate was closed. And there was a sign explaining when it was open, and it was very specific times of the year, which, if you live there and you know that, you would just go during those times of the year, but we just happened to be there at the wrong time. So good directions, just bad timing on our part, I think.
Oh, was that Andy? I wonder if that was Andy.
I think so. I think his name was Andy.
Do you remember one of his stories if I were to mention a little bit about it?
Vaguely, and I say that having just watched From the Beyond again like 2 weeks ago, but
it involved like his compass or something.
Yes.
I'll just say that much.
Yes.
I wonder if it was Andy that gave you the direction.
Yes, that was Andy. That's a good teaser for From the Beyond too. Yeah. You want to see some weird compass stuff? Check out that movie. Yeah.
So fun fact to that, Aaron, is so after I had that interview happen, right? And I didn't know who would obviously be an interviewed or whatever, but since I had July 4th of that year off, so no, let me go back to set this up properly. So before I actually went to go get interviewed by your crew there, Courtney and Heather, since they were the only two ladies available there, to say hello to and me actually, but is what I'm trying to get at. But before then, I had arrived in Bennington early because it's only like an hour and 10-minute drive for me. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to get there early is because there was a spot that every time I drove by it when I was trying to go to like the Glastonbury parking lot, like a couple miles more from where this particular area that always catches my eye every time I drive by it, and I'm just like, I think that's the spot I need to go into, because back in 2020, back in 2013 was when a friend of mine's friend had showed me this hidden graveyard that's in there, and I wanted to try to re-find it. So long story short is, I'll just leave it like this, is I got there at 10 o'clock, Aaron, like for July 4th, right? And this is me actually trying to be like full gear and like going up to find this hidden graveyard and, do a few things for my Haunted Vermont thing and just leave, call it a day. 5.5 hours later when I found the graves.
Wow.
And I should have found it within like the first, I think should have been like 30-45 minutes.
And this is where? This is near Glastonbury, or?
Yeah, this is Woodford.
Oh, okay.
So right by the mountain.
Okay, yeah, the geography's kind of coming back to me now. Yeah, dude. So you get it? Like, it's weird, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I disappeared in the woods like some people do out there, or had missing time. But you're just like, that didn't feel like the amount of time it was supposed to be, right? Like,
so I was using my phone,
mm-hmm.
and my phone was trying to bring me deeper into the woods.
Oh, dude.
It got so bad, dude, that I literally would notice in this that for some reason it was like my phone was trying to tell me I need to go south or whatever. Like, I'm saying south because that's where I feel like it should be for, from where I park my car.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm thinking I'm going south, it looks like I'm actually more going north.
Okay.
It got so bad. It got so bad. I wasn't on the trail anymore.
Dude.
I found some other things though that made me go, yeah, I'm totally way too far, to the point where I said, you know what? Screw this. I pocketed my phone and I just said, I am walking straight until I find the trail or a trail, and I'm just gonna do that. And that's what I did. And then um, the guy who recommended me to Heather, I guess, he had sent me a pinpoint for where the graves were. Because once I found service, I text that guy. I was like, "Hey, dude, I think I'm lost in the woods. Can you come rescue me?" And he's like, "Dude, I'm not there. Remember?" And I'm like, "Fuck."
Oh, no.
So he sent me a pinpoint where the grave should be, and that's when I was realizing that I was going further into the woods, and I said, "This isn't right."
Mhm.
And that's when I pocketed the phone and kind of just did my own instinct. But yeah, long story short, 5.5 hours later, I found the grave. I did a little bit of stuff there, and I pinpointed it for my own knowledge, so that way, yep. And so I said, so next year I will come back and try this all again.
Wow, dude. And it's one of those things, like, there's so many theories about that area. People are like, oh, are there crystals under the mountain? Is it UFOs? Is it another dimension? And this is all stuff that people have said online. Like, I'm trying to be very careful not to ruin the movie because I've seen it several times now throughout various iterations. So in my head, it's already out. But,
well, by the time it comes out, it'll be like a day or so of it before it releases. So yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So I can talk a little more. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of theories as to why is the Bennington Triangle so strange. And it's like, you could really run in any direction with it. You could be super skeptical if you wanted to and say it's a vast, winding, untamed stretch of wilderness. Of course it's going to bewilder you. Or you could wonder, is this really like a paranormal location? Like,
I think I can say this much. And this would be a nice little teaser for one of the segments that I actually talk about in this goddamn documentary. So I became the portal guy, for everybody wondering. Of course I did. And but so Aaron, when I actually found the grave, okay, so I want to go back to me getting lost again to now finding the grave. So when I was on the goddamn trail to begin with, right? Somebody had made a marker of like the stone cairns, like handmade, but they haven't been there for a long time. This is like new, but still it was a stone cairn kind of bullshit thing. So anyway, I saw that and I looked over to my right, and there in the vast trees of what would be considered Woodford Forest, guess what? That's where the graves were. Dude. All I had to do was take that right. But instead, I just kept going.
That's
because
wild.
I didn't. And I think what happened was when I started to rethink about it was I haven't been there in, at the time, 12 years. So for some reason, it felt like it was easier to get to where the grave were that time or this time around than it was prior. Which was weird because I have still some of the old footage of back when I first found these graves, and it looked like the trail was more rugged or something because it was not as easy this time like it was this time around. It was weird.
Dude, yeah. It's a strange place, man. And it's so beautiful. Like, you know, my wife and I talk a lot about where do we want to live long term, like where do we want to retire one day, and like Vermont made the list after that trip because I was like, it's so beautiful there, like it really is, you know. But that segment, that part of the state, it's got a, and it's not like I've been places that were strange and felt bad, you know. and it doesn't feel bad. It just feels like very much a place that has its own character, its own personality. And I realize I'm speaking in abstract, but like that's what I walked away from, is just feeling like this was not another patch of woods. Like this is a really unique place. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I became the portal guy, and I figured, you know, what I discovered after finding the grave, I think it's not real going to say too much, but it just kind of ironic that, of course, it had to be like a stone cairn thing that was right there, and I talked about it like a month prior. Well, even. I'll say this. I can say this without ruining anything. You added, everyone we interviewed for that production was great, but you added a lot with what you said. And one of the earliest cuts of the film I saw, you know, we have titles that come up on screen with people's name and like, you know, the show that they're with or our author, researcher, whatever they've asked us to present them as. And one of the early cuts of the movie I saw, you know, yours came up, and there were like little joke subtitles for everybody, like nothing mean or anything like that, but it was like man with blue shirt, you know, person in library, like stuff like that. Because as you're going through, you've got to put those in the timeline.
Let me guess. It was my tattoos, right?
No, yours said, yours was something like, I'm trying to remember the exact wording because the cut doesn't exist anymore. It was months ago, but it was something like one of the best interviews or something like that. It was like one of the most knowledgeable, something to that extent, you know, and that wasn't something that I did or that Seth did even. We worked with Santino Vitali for the edit on this one. So that was just him watching the footage and he was like, Paul, one of the best. Like, and I'm not making that up. You can ask Heather. Like, she'll back me up on that.
Wow. Well, whoever this guy was, like, yeah, he gets my my 2 cents of it. Yay. Because I honestly felt like when I heard I was gonna be participating in this, I was just like, oh my God, like what the fuck? You know, like
yeah. Well, it's weird when you're like, you know, you're sitting down to have a conversation with somebody and they go, okay, ignore the cameras, just talk to me. And all of a sudden, at least this is how it was for me, the first several productions I participated in, all of a sudden, everything that I think I know that I prepared falls out of my head and I can't find any of it for a few minutes. So
fun fact, I brought a printed out note thing that I gave to Heather at the end because I didn't need it anymore because I have it saved digitally.
She showed it to us.
Heather.
We kept it on hand the next day. She's like, these are Paul's notes if you want to read over them before we go about the next round of things. And I don't remember what they said, but I did read them. Yes.
Well, that was one thing I forgot to ask Heather is when you guys found, oh God, I'm going to butcher his name now. Bob. I'll just say Dr. Bob. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I had him in the notes. So,
I think so. Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if that's how you guys were able to find him was because of that little thing.
Heather would be the one to ask about that because she's the person finder. She finds people that have no business being found, and not like in an illegal way. You know, she'll find people through public channels, and she knows how to contact people. She knows how to contact people the right way. You know, because anybody can send someone an email, but in order to not come across as a psychopath, and then to get them to agree to share their strange encounter with you on camera, that's a talent in and of itself. And Heather Mosier is the best at it. But Heather was the one who could speak about the finding. Yeah, that's another interview I wasn't there for. It was conducted in my absence. So
yeah, dude, that exactly like what you said felt like is what I felt like it happened to me. I was just like, oh fuck, like I'm trying to reach in the back of my head.
Happens to everybody. Happens to everybody, dude.
So I'm gonna talk to the listener for a minute. So if you guys watch the documentary and you actually see me kind of go like, yeah, I think it was this, and my eyes are like almost like going into the back of my goddamn head. That's how I literally try to like program and download the information of what I've gathered throughout these years.
It happens to everybody, man. And I think he would be okay with me sharing this. I've been on multiple productions now with Micah Hanks, you know, very well known in the UFO UAP world, accomplished author, speaker, television personality, like Micah Hanks. And even he makes mistakes on camera. Like he'll stop and start over. Literally everyone does it. You think of your most experienced cryptozoological paranormal person. I don't know them all, but I've worked with enough of them to say this with relative confidence. Everybody makes mistakes on camera. Everybody stops and starts over. That's why we edit. So
right, exactly. The power of editing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're done with that. You know what? Before I do, because this will be out, like we were just talking about, probably out by the time this even airs, or it might be a day up. But either way, people will see it after it's released. So anyway, before we move on, get your copies. Get your copies. Get your copies. Get your copies. smalltownmonsters.com/shop, Bennington Triangle, I think is what the URL is. Get your own copy. And if you're local, I'll gladly sign it, whatever. I'm not that famous. I'm an idiot, whatever.
No, dude, I love that stuff. Like I got I was a Kickstarter backer and an STM fan before I started working with him. That was how Seth and I ended up meeting. I was just a huge nerd, and I got to meet him at an event, and he was kind enough to like come and talk to me for a few minutes. That's how we met. But like the first time when I was on the shoot for the Texas Dogman Triangle, that was the first time I worked on anything with them. And I brought stuff with me for them to sign because I thought like, oh, this is a one-time thing. You know, I'm never going to get to hang out with these guys again. Like maybe at an event or something. I didn't think I was going to see them multiple times a year. So I brought like some DVDs and stuff. And I'm like spending the rest of the week with them. I didn't even wait till the end of the week. I did it right at the beginning and made it weird. So.
Yeah, I think I brought like a couple things with me too because I didn't know who was going to be there. But of course, it had to have been like the project that like Courtney Knorr Heather worked on, and I'm like, oh, go figure.
Yeah, the way
and then,
goes,
and then later on, I find out Heather worked on the Mark of the Bell Witch, which I have, and I'm like, son of a. Anyway,
like you just don't know. You can't bring everything.
Yeah. No, but it was a fun time. But yeah, it's fun. But yeah, little shout out before we move on, which is now moving on. So Aaron, for those that may not know, with Small Town, is pretty well known for his like Dogman books and documentaries that he's done. He kind of already mentioned a few right now. Well, at least one, as far as I am aware. I don't know if I like somehow missed it because it is thundering in the background now, apparently. So I guess the humidity finally caught up in my area. Anyway,
I'm not hearing it, so you know.
So that's good, man. So you can correct me, obviously, but I'm trying to remember here now for your Dogman. It was the Dogman, the Texas Dogman Triangle, I think, came out first, and then it was the Dogman Territory.
Yep, you got it. Mm-hmm.
And then which was also, man, I'm losing thoughts for goddamn words right now, man. And it's like a collab, basically. You made a book that kind of like went with both films, basically, the Texas Dogman Triangle and Dogman Territorial. But the only thing different was the second one. It was like Dogman Hunting Ground or Hunting Ground, something like that, where a land between the lakes, which I have on the audio book, which you know what? I'll save that for when we get into what we're gonna be seeing coming out later this year with you. But anyway, what I want to get into real quick, and I guess what I want to do is this is gonna be like a general conversation, because obviously, you know, we mainly focused on the Bennington Triangle, and goddamn you, cat, knocking my notes over. One thing I want to start off with you real quick, Aaron, is the different types of Dogman. A lot of people might not know this because obviously I feel like Dogman is more still underrated compared to like Bigfoot. So if somebody's never heard of Dogman, how would you describe the different types of Dogman to somebody?
So when you say type, do you mean like seemingly flesh and blood versus supernatural, or do you mean like the different physical descriptions that people discuss? And I've heard.
No, I totally get it.
Ways, so that's why I'm asking.
I totally get it, because usually the way I guess I'm looking at it is I usually hear as like type 1, type 2.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen like the multiple types, because you get eyewitness encounters that talk about kind of your atypical description, which is the pointed ears, the elongated snout, very much wolf-like, or German Shepherd. Some people will mention the Belgian Malinois, but like most people don't know what a Belgian Malinois is. Cross-section of people that know what a Belgian Malinois is and have had a Dogman sighting is very narrow. So usually we're getting those wolf-like descriptions. I have had a couple of witnesses say that it looked more like a pit bull. You know, it had more of a rounded kind of smashed face. I've read many more encounters than I've received personally in the works of like specifically Linda Godfrey, where that description comes up from time to time. So when we're talking about different Dogman types, that's usually, I think, what people are referring to is these different physical builds. I personally don't think we have enough credible eyewitness encounters, and I'll explain what I mean by credible in a second, to make a type list that is that definite. I think a lot of those descriptions are drawn from online anecdotes. They're drawn from just things that people say and unsubstantiated reports. You know, a lot of it is drawn from, again, books like Linda Godfrey, who would outline a lot of this stuff and say this witness said this witness said that. But to me personally, I don't think there are enough detailed documented reports to draw a line and say, okay, we have this number of Dogman types. You know what I mean? Like, one witness saying, I think I saw one that resembled a pit bull, does not to me say that there's a Dogman type that looks like a pit bull. That means that's what a witness perceived at that time. Now, if we get that description 20, 30, 40, 50 times, that's a little bit different. That's my take. That might make some of the Dogman people mad. I'm not sorry. I'm in what I'm calling my villain era, but that's just how I feel about it. Yeah.
Hey man, I'm one of those people now where the way I look at it is I'm not getting any younger, and if it means to call people out on something, I'm gonna fucking do it. You know,
Samey, bro. Yeah, Power Rangers generation. You know what's up. Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm not even gonna say it. I'll wait till off the air to maybe say it. To share it with you of one of my pet peeves about the documentary. And anyway, by the way, I want to go back real quick. You know what? I didn't even properly say something. So, I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. But what you said about the nickname of underneath my name is I was one of the best interviewed or whatever the hell it said, like that. You know, that touching to me, because at the same time I almost felt like I was underprepared when that happened. So the fact that you said that, like, kind of makes me like feel a little bit more better about myself.
Well, good. I'm glad, dude. And I mean it, like, for real. Every person I have worked with on camera since I've been doing this has come away after the interview saying, I forgot to say this, or I felt like I wasn't prepared for that. I mean, everybody feels that way. And you literally did nail it. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Part of my job, what I do when I'm like the film shoots and stuff, those are exciting and fun, but that's like maybe 5% of my time on an annual basis. Like 90% of the time I'm at home watching raw footage, time stamping stuff out, and I enjoy my work. I really, really enjoy it. But most of the time I'm watching raw interviews with people. And I can tell you for a fact, everybody says at some point, oh, I forgot to say this. Oh, I messed that up. Or, you know, and part of it's editing that we're able to take those moments out. But part of it's just that you people are a lot better on camera than they give themselves credit for. So,
yeah.
So
I just wanted to just say that, because I know a few people will probably, you know, would like to hear that too, because everybody was hoping, like, you know, I did good and did this, that, and afterwards I was just kind of like, I don't know, did I say too much? Did I say too little? Like, you know,
you did awesome, man. No. The more you talk, the better. And this is another maybe fun behind the scenes thing, but the more you say, the better, because you might talk for 3 minutes and say something that you think is completely off topic, but then another interviewee that we talk to 3 days later will mention the same thing. And all of a sudden,
and that helps validate.
Exactly. Yeah. All of a sudden that 3 minutes becomes incredibly valuable footage that we're very glad that we got. We're glad you kept talking, even though you might've thought at the time, oh, I just wasted their time. Like what's challenging. I don't want to say frustrating at all, because every interviewee is different and it's our job to make the footage work. But what's challenging for me sometimes as a behind the scenes editing person is when someone doesn't have as much to say. Because, like, and not that that's bad, like, we want people to tell their stories the way they're going to tell them. We don't want them to talk just to talk. But, like, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish they had talked about that a little more, because it's very interesting, but then they don't. So what I'm saying is you were an excellent addition to the film, and we were all very glad to have you. So yeah,
totally, man. I mean, it was a great experience, and made me realize, like, I just need to work on probably a few things in the future, but that's about it. But,
it's a process, bro. Every really production I've been a part of, I've approached differently. Every single one I walk away from thinking, I should have done this differently. I should have been more prepared for this. And then Seth does the edit and it comes back and I'm like, all right, I guess that's fine. I guess I did do it. Like,
fun fact about me, I don't really get to share this that much. I don't even know if it's even on YouTube anymore. But back in some year, 2017, 18, I had gotten reached out from a college student who was working on some project about Emily's Bridge here, our Crybaby Bridge, and she had found that I went there and gotten scratched and this and that. And she's just like, would you like to talk about that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I would no problem because, I mean, it just, I think what it is when you allow me to talk about my own personal things, I'm more comfortable, even though as I start to talk more like some of my younger stuff or younger. Yeah, I guess in a way it would be younger stuff. I still need to work on those because technically I don't really get a chance to talk about my younger experiences. So of course I'm not always going to remember the details, but but the one that I really talk about the most, where I feel more comfortable to talk about it, because that's obviously what I did, and etc. is like Emily Bridge. I talked about that so much that it's just because it left one of those lasting imprints on me. Where have I gone back to investigate Emily Bridge? No. Do I want to though? Hell yeah, I do. But yeah, but it's just it's one of those things where you got to learn how to talk about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah yeah, and that's one of the reasons I say, like, Heather's so good at her job, because how many scam emails do you get in a week? So all of a sudden someone reaches out to you and they're like, I'd like to feature you in a documentary. You're like, yeah, whatever. But like getting people, helping to get people to a place where they're willing to meet with you and willing to share, it's difficult, because it's not something you just fly off the handle. Like, I've had some strange experiences that if I wanted to dive in and research them, they could make great podcasts, but I don't talk about them publicly because I'm just not to the point that I'm willing to do that. And that's one of the reasons I'm a real believer in, I don't have a lot of beliefs in the paranormal world, but I'm a real belief in respect for and being beholden to the witnesses, taking their stories as they give them to us, regardless of how wild or off the wall or unbelievable something sounds to you. This person was willing to go out on a limb and share it. And I'm not even willing to do that with some of the stuff that I've experienced. And for me, it's because it's very personal and connected to other stuff in my life that just isn't for public consumption. But it's just, I'm not going to do that with those experiences, but there are people that will. And I think that's to be respected. Yeah. Totally. I've had some weird stuff I do like to talk about, but then there's other stuff that I'm just like, no, I'm good. I don't need to explore that any further. So
you don't want to remember that shit. Yeah, I totally get it.
It's not even about remembering. It's just like ghosts specifically. I've had some ghost experiences that was enough for me. Like, I don't need to go explore a haunted mansion. I've seen enough. I'm as convinced as I need to be. I'm good. I will leave that to the people who are better equipped for it. So
gotcha. Yeah. All right. So sorry for the people, sorry for that off the road sideway going backwards kind of thing. So let's go back forward now with this type of Dogman thing, wherever the hell we left off. But yeah, it's weird because with the type of Dogman too, you hear somewhere they're without a tail, with a tail. Sometimes they are more muscular looking. They're more swimmer in some. You can say that they're flesh and blood, they're skinwalkers, they're what was the other term I heard you say? I think in hunting grounds, like earth werewolf, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, there's the idea that they could be some kind of a guardian that's tied to the earth, and yeah, there are so many theories as to what these things are, and that's ultimately a question, right? What are these? Like, with any of this stuff, what is this ultimately? But and if anybody who got mad at me earlier for throwing shade at Dogman types is still listening, like, I understand why those profiles have been drawn up, because there are stark contrasts in some descriptions, like very emaciated versus more muscular, tail versus no tail. So I understand the need to like qualify them and make a list. But again, I don't know. That's a different road we could go down. But yeah, what you're saying is correct. I'm saying in a roundabout way.
Well, I'll leave it at this, and maybe like in a future chat with you again, because I'd love to have you back on anyway because of this subject. But especially now that I posted an old Dogman story, and for National Werewolf Day this year, for anybody that may not be aware, February 6th is known as National Werewolf Day apparently. So I did a thing for National Werewolf Day this year. Anyway, I did a post on Facebook about an event that happened here some time ago. I can't even remember, 2016, 15, maybe, for all I remember. But anyway, the point to this is this person who has been following me on Haunted Vermont forever finally decided to reach out and tell me her possible Dogman encounter in the same general area. Being the only reason why she shared it with me is because the story I had posted fits almost identical to what she had experienced, which is the car chasing.
Yeah.
And the only difference was the color of this thing, which is interesting, but I want to save that for possible next time, because now that my focus is on this general area, I kind of just went into a rabbit hole today, because there's so much stuff around the northeastern kingdom here that when we talk about possible with what we were bringing up with this whole Earth werewolf, I'm wondering if that's what's going on here in the northeastern kingdom, considered a Earth werewolf, for a few reasons, and that's all I want to leave it on. But now moving forward real quick before I even forget, Aaron, the same person, because I keep in contact with this person now, because she's not afraid to share her experience and stuff. And I told her that I'm going to be talking to somebody who had written and et cetera, about Dogman. You should check out his work too. Here's a couple films, documentaries, that you have done, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I find interesting too is there's a part in your hunting ground, which is another reason why I'd love to have you come back on anyway, that you mentioned, and it is almost exactly how she described what she saw in the hunting ground. Yeah, I'll fill you in a minute, but anyway, going so real quick. No, before I forget, I want to get her question out of the way first. So she wanted me to ask you. So shout out to Crystal for submitting this question.
Thank you,
which is Aaron, what do you think about the dogmen that target specific people?
That's one of the difficult questions, because you hear repeated instances of people having multiple encounters. You hear stories about them seeing something that they think is Dogman, in the woods, and then later they see it near their home. I haven't spoken with any witnesses who've experienced that. I've talked to people that have had activity near their homes. I haven't talked to anybody who's experienced that being followed home aspect of it. That's weird, because I recently put together an edit for what we called it the Dogman Archives, Real Encounters, Real Terror. Came out on our YouTube channel, and that was Dogman reports or Dogman-centric interviews that we've collected over the last 4 or 5 years that never made it into anything for one reason or another. Like, we'll talk to people and interview them for an hour, but you have to fit all of that stuff into a 40-minute movie. And you've talked to this many people. So a lot of stuff we save, but we never get rid of anything. We always keep it for the future, because you just never know. And we put together a bunch of these old interviews. And one of the people we talked to is Paul Bogdan, who's a researcher with Allegheny Coteau Project. He works with a few different groups out in, New York, Pennsylvania, studies a lot of cryptozoological stuff. And he mentioned this as well, that, and the thing he said that sticks with me is there's no reason a biological animal should be able to do that. Like, we know that animals have memory and they can remember things. They say that crows can hold grudges, whatever. There's no reason a creature should be able to follow you home from a national park to your home 50, 100, 200 miles away. And that's what I think of when I think of different Dogman types, because you have encounters like that are very strange. Like, you almost feel like there has to be some kind of paranormal, supernatural element, whatever that means, within your worldview. Because in addition to like them showing up at people's homes, you have things where, like, I shot at it and it didn't flinch, didn't bat an eye. It had eyes that were glowing independently of any light source. I experienced what I felt like was either some kind of telepathy, or I had an extreme sense of like danger that I needed to get out of there. Like, these aren't things that happen with normal animal encounters. So you have these really supernatural ones, but then we have a lot of them, a lot. And in my mind, the ratio is about 50-50. where it just seems to be an animal. Someone sees it from either a relatively close or far distance off. It's a big, weird-looking dog thing that stands up on two legs, looks at them, and then walks away. We see a lot of reports like that. A lot of road crossings, a lot of reports by water sources, farms, ranches, potential food sources, a lot of private land or places where there aren't a lot of eyes all the time, where theoretically just about anything could hide out if it knew what it was doing. That's where a lot of these sightings seem to take place, and that makes sense for a biological animal. Of course it needs to be near food, water, and concealment. Those are things that animals need. But then on the other side of the coin, you have these really weird ones. So I think that's what catches people up a lot with this Dogman question is what is it? What is it? Specifically with this phenomenon, because we have these two very disparate report profiles. My ideas on that have changed over time, such that I would have written both of the books that I have out in the world permanently now differently. Like there are ideas I would have either expressed differently or not expressed at all, but that's kind of part of this, is allowing your perspective to evolve and to change. And that's one of the reasons I'm writing a third book, because there are things I want to revisit and revise. So, I think I went a little further than what you asked me for. But
No, actually, to be honest, man, you segued into something that I was gonna even ask you anyway, which is basically markings. And what I was trying to figure out originally when we were first talking about, setting this up for the chat, I had originally put a note. I wanted to ask you markings, and originally the question was supposed to go. You know how they say with witches and stuff, there's like a mark of the witch to know like this is the devil's work or whatever. You're the witch, you should be punished. But throughout your research or maybe eyewitnesses or anything, have they ever described some sort of weird marking on the beast per se of like they just seem almost like a Blair Witch thing? Like you can go out into the woods and see these weird sticks forming like a Blair Witch thing,
like a rune or a sigil of some kind,
right? Or or like on your skin, like there's like that weird like sigil marking. Like had anybody ever mentioned anything like a weird thing? But that was the original idea. But then after diving into more of Dogman stuff, when it comes to marking, kind of like how you said it need to be by like the food, water, etc., burial mounds and stuff like that. I guess like if you also wanted to maybe elaborate more, is what would be like in a perfect, or maybe we could even throw in your documentary Dogman Territory, where it talked about the land between the lakes, where like what makes a Dogman territory, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's a good question. And again, like prime sighting location seems to be these places that are adjacent to human habitation, but are not covered in it. You know what I mean? Again, national parks, ranches, farms, forests, places like that. Unincorporated territory in rural Texas. We have sightings out of a lot of there. That was kind of what got me going on this Dogman stuff in the first. Well, not kind of. It really was. I stumbled across some reports that were nearby to me, and then had someone I knew relay another one, and I was like, oh, so it's not just on the internet. It's people I know.
Right.
Sorry, I thought I heard a child. He's supposed to be asleep. So, but anyway,
I haven't heard anything, so we're good. I think.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that's what my definition of Dogman territory is. But a lot of times we see adjacency to, Native American burial grounds or areas where native populations were forcibly displaced. And we have to be careful with that too, because that's kind of most of the US is places where natives were displaced. Like that's just a sad reality about our history.
Totally.
So I feel like if we jump to that conclusion and say, well, there's been a Dogman sighting here, and this was once Comanche land, a lot of Texas was once Comanche land. And I think it's important to always remain conscious of that whenever we can. And if it's a part of the research process, great, we're learning things we should be learning. But we have to be careful not to appropriate real history, native history particularly, with this cryptid that I want to find. You know what I mean? Like I can point to a lot of places in Texas that were once native land and say, yeah, there was a Dogman sighting here, but that's the only corollary. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, I haven't run into that in eyewitness encounters, the sigil thing. No, we were talking about the territory thing. I got stuck on that sigil.
No. That was the original idea, though.
So, yeah.
But more I thought about it, it's like I don't think people would really pay attention if there was some sort of sigil thing.
I don't hear that. I've heard a couple stories that mention maybe a white mark or a white stripe, but not with any kind of recurring frequency and
right.
Nothing that would indicate to me in what I've heard, nothing that would indicate any intent, I know in some systems of belief, or you could say some forms of witchcraft, if you want to use that term, putting a mark on a person could be a means of control or a means of ownership or something like that. You see that in fiction too, but I haven't seen that within my research, within the scope of this phenomenon. Yeah.
Well, since you just brought up being controlled, let's take a look at 1767, maybe. I can't think of the year right now, but Beast of Govindon.
L'Habité de Gévaudan.
Yes.
A favorite of mine. Yeah.
I mean, there's a there's a theory that beast back in that day that killed all these women and children and etc. They thought maybe it was being controlled by something or someone.
That's one of the theories, that it may have been a trained wolf or a trained hyena, that it may have even had armor on it, because there were reports of it being shot and it getting up and continuing to move. Most likely, L'Habité was more than one large wolf, because wolf attacks in France in the 1700s, even before that, they were very common.
Were terrible.
They were all the time. There's a reason that every Disney fantasy movie you've ever seen that has people running through the woods features them being chased by wolves. I think we remember that on an ancestral level. We were hounded literally by canines for a very long time. And France is one part of the world where that happened a lot. There's a really good book called there's a really good book called I forget the full title, but it's called Beast, Monsters, Serial Killers, and Madmen, the Real Monsters of Gévaudan. And they have, I think it's just a few pages, but it lists out dozens of wolf massacres or known wolf reports where people were just slaughtered, or where they would continually come back to the same town and attack people. Livestock as well, but there are instances like Gévaudan where these things seem to have developed a taste for humans for whatever reason, probably having to do with ecology and the economics of farming and stuff like that, things I don't understand. But so that's the only reason I lean away from the idea that L'Habité was being controlled, because that was something that happened a lot. That particular case was attributed as having a very, very high body count, but we just don't know how many wolves there were. We know at least 2 specimens were shot and brought before King Louis because people were trying to collect on the bounty for it. So it's thought in some circles that there was more than one. That's the more skeptical angle. The part of me that wants to find Dogman everywhere says, well, it ate people. Some people said it was on 2 legs, and when they shot it, nothing happened. It's a Dogman. So you could go either way. But I tend to look at more of the fact that just wolf attacks were a thing. Very much a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll just mention to that is for people is if you haven't heard of the amazing movie Brotherhood of the Wolf, check that out.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So
underrated. And totally underrated. And what was the other one that I was gonna say? So if you guys want to check out another interesting incident that happened, it was, I think, Germany. And here we go again, trying to download my memory of stuff. Peter Stump, I think was his name.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. 1589, October 28th, I think it was, because he was burned and decapitated and burned again to basically nothing. And then what makes it more sad is on Halloween, the daughter and wife get the same treatment just to make sure they completely wipe out the bloodline.
Yeah. Werewolf lore for a long time, when I thinking about it, I'm thinking about modern sightings and could this be something like Bigfoot that's been hiding, whatever. But, older werewolf stories are not like that. They're very dark and sad and usually involve witchcraft and executions. And, history is written by the winner. We have to wonder how many times people were just scapegoated and called werewolves because they needed to solve a problem, you know.
I mean, look at Salem with like Abigail Williams. She was going around going, "You're a witch,"
that kind of thing. Yeah, and we know that happened in a lot of places. Like werewolf trials in Europe happened for a long time, and I don't believe that many peasants were able to transform into satanic chimeric beings. I just don't buy that. So
yeah, no, totally. Yeah. To be honest, that was really about it for Markin, but I'm trying to think to really maybe wrap up the Dogman thing for now is when it comes to like what I was trying to also ask is so the area that I'm looking into, I'll at least say this much for people because everybody kind of knows that general northeastern what we're known for. You may not know, so that is why I also want to share with you. So if you remember the old TV show Ripley, believe it or not, there used to be an episode where they talked about our infamous Brunswick Springs. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-mm.
So short term for this conversation is Brunswick Springs is known for having like 5 or 6 different type of separators of this water because of the different minerals that it produces. It got to one of those points where the indigenous people looked at it as like the healing water and stuff like that. It got to the point where if us white settlers, and I'm saying that because that's what they used to call it back then, tried to build anything on top of this land and tried to sell this water to benefit from it, you are cursed. So there's a legend. I don't that this guy literally tried to bottle some of this water up and tried to make a business out of it, and his business burnt to the ground. Now that didn't just happen once; it happened twice that he tried to do this. And by the second time, he stopped because second time is like So anyway, if you look at what we were kind of talking about with this cursed land thing, I think that was mainly for what the earth werewolf. Now a couple miles past this Brunswick Spring is, I'm gonna butcher the name anyway, but they call it Glacial Lake, or the other name of it, Lake Willoughby, maybe. I might have pronounced that wrong, but anyway, this is a glacial lake. And anyway, they talk about a water spirit here, which is odd because I don't feel like this is more of like a darker thing, especially if we look at the indigenous lore of these water spirits, especially what I had found today, which is called the Hobomok. I think that's how you pronounce it. Which pretty much translates to this nature spirit that can be asleep in the bodied water, but if awakened, you're either going to be getting a protective side of nature or disastrous side. And so anyway, this is the area, this northeastern kingdom, where there's been about 3 Dogman reports. And 2 are in one town more north of where the 2 areas that I've shared. Now, what makes it more fascinating to me is there's an old missing girl report from like 18. I don't have it pulled up right now. I'll just say 1800s, where this little girl was out by her house, and what happened was she vanished when she was trying to just turn around because her brother was being mean and didn't want his sister to play with him and the other brother or something. And they weren't that far from the house, from their new home, but between her turning around to go back home, which was not that far away, she had vanished. Very, very strange, very weird. But it's just interesting because it's in the same town where the two other Dogman reports I've heard about. So, or read about is what I really should say. But that's what made me form my interest into this northeastern kingdom here, is because when you start looking at the land as a whole and start to figure out why would these creatures be around here, well, if you got these cursed springs, you got this interesting glacier lake, big bodied water. um it's more rugged and rural up north, so there's really not that many neighbors. Perfect place for a dog man, I would say, especially when it comes to food supply.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to say too for the listener that a dog man kidnapped this little girl back in the day, because I have no proof of that. But it's just strange that she had disappeared in the same town that these other two dogmen report reside.
Yeah, that proximity is interesting. It doesn't mean they're connected necessarily, like you're saying, but it's a part of the information. Like if you're looking into the history of an area, that's part of that history. So yeah.
Well, the only thing I really want to dive into now is like kind of like more like Bigfoot sighting, because then we could almost go into the rabbit hole of the whole Bigfoot versus Dogman thing. Trying to find my damn camera here. So yeah. Because we always hear sometimes about, and I think it's also between like the land between the lakes, you hear about like Bigfoot versus Dogman kind of crap, or like a territorial thing, if I can even say that.
Yeah, that's what you hear from a lot of the researchers who spend a lot of time there, and people like Jesse and Joe at Hellbent Holler, Elijah Henderson at Cryptid Studies Institute. Those guys spend a lot of time researching in that area, and in talking with them. And there are other guys out there too. I can't name everyone who researches the land between the lakes, but there does seem to be a concentration of one more in the south and one more in the north. And if I try to say which is which, I'm going to mess it up right now. I believe Dogman is more in the south. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, it's the other one. But that does seem to be a thing. And so that leads to a lot of speculation that, this is Bigfoot territory, this is Dogman territory. Again, it's one of those things that, aside from trying to tabulate eyewitness reports and put numbers to it, it's hard to really say, because we don't necessarily have any other reasons to think that. But again, like I talk a lot about being beholden to eyewitness testimony, and if that's what we have to go on, that's what we have to go on. But it's hard because we know a lot of people don't come forward with their encounters. So there could be 50 Dogman sightings in the wrong territory. We're just not hearing about them because people don't know what they've seen. They don't want to talk about it. They see a dog walk on two legs and they go, wow, I saw a dog walk on two legs once. That's cool. Then they move on with their lives. That happens a lot. So it's hard to say, but that is very much a part of the discussion, specifically in places like the LBL. Probably there more than anywhere else that I'm familiar with, as far as trying to draw a line between Bigfoot and Dogman territory. Yeah.
Well, that is why it makes me wonder if we go with the indigenous lore about like this water spirit thing, especially here in Vermont, where it's glacial lake that was created by a glacier, basically, from way back in the freaking day. It's just interesting because, like I said, you got the glacial lake more north, and then down south of where this glacier lake is, that's where the cursed like Brunswick Springs would be. So, and I say cursed because, I mean, like I was mentioning, like you don't want to build any type of buildings around it. You don't want to sell it to profit off it. It's supposed to be for everybody, kind of thing. So it just makes me wonder, because of the fact, if, let's just say, for the example here, that the white settlers crashed the party of the indigenous that were there, did the indigenous people maybe curse the Brunswick area to maybe have that happen or whatever? And I mean, we have the Abenaki here. I just forget which one is more up north right now, but it's just a matter of, well, are we dealing with cursed land versus a protection area? And what's even more interesting is from where the glacial lake is, if you go west from where this glacial lake is, you're going to run into Lake Champlain, which is about an hour and 47 minutes away. So where this northeastern kingdom is what I'm basically saying is you got two bodied waters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the idea that spirits can't cross water, or that bodies of water can hem in energies or entities, and yeah, it's tough, man. And I always try to be careful with the native stuff because, and I'm not saying you're wrong at all. This is just continuing the thought. Like,
No,
so much native lore is,
I totally get it.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Like, so much native lore has been lost, and so much that hasn't been lost, or erased. I would love to know whether or not for sure we can eliminate or confirm a native connection in a lot of these places, but it's just something that we can't do a lot of the time, And I'm not a person that has like a degree in history or anything like that I can say anything more authoritative than that. But it's just, I see a lot of the reason I always go back to that point is I see a lot of researchers who will say like, or researchers, you know what I mean, who will say that like the Native Americans talked about an upright canine here, and I'm like, okay, which Native Americans, which tribe, who told you that? Where's that information coming from?
And that is what I would love to do, is try to figure out which tribe up north is maybe the one I could try to talk to. I know it's Abenaki, but we are known to have 3 different type of Abenakis here. So it's like, which one should I talk to?
And making that bridge is tough. Like, you don't just roll up to someone and go, hey, I heard you're a native person. Let me ask you this. We have some native relatives through my wife's family, and I'll occasionally ask them things, but I don't call them every time I have a Bigfoot question, because like, that's just, you just don't do that. It's tough. Yeah.
Well, that's why I try to do my best to maybe try to see if I could find some sort of book. Like, I have a book that's about like native myths and legend, but does that mean that book's going to have my answer? Hell no. But I can maybe try to, I don't know, find something close to get a better idea. But otherwise, like we just said, we just got to watch where we step on that subject for sure. For totally. But yes, Aaron, you know what? Before I let you go, so you guys, well, for now anyway, you guys did the 2026 Kickstarter. You kind of mentioned it earlier. So I guess to wrap it up for now as a teaser for maybe hopefully next time or whatever, which is which to start with, I don't know, maybe the movie or book, I don't even know, but hey, either way, it's Dogman Legacy. You're gonna be basically breaking it. I forget now the hang on, let me see. I think I have it right here. Yeah. So Dogman Legacy for the documentary. What to say? I'm going to read this real quick. There's an ancient being lurking in the shadows of human history. Our ancestors called it the werewolf. Today we call it Dogman. Aaron Deese, our special guest here, and Sharon LeGros returned for a third examination of both a very old and frighteningly modern phenomenon in Dogman Legacy. Continuing the hunt, which began in the Dogman Triangle, werewolves in the Lone Star State, and Dogman Territory, werewolves in the land between the lakes. And you basically end it by saying, hunt the werewolf, fear the Dogman, witness the legacy. And then I just want to say real quick for the book, it just basically just says that it's your third foray into the Dogman phenomenon, an attempt to take in the whole scope of those ongoing sightings. And we're basically trying to determine a line between when the werewolf, I'm assuming, term stops and then the Dogman term legacy begins, is what I should say.
Yeah, this is part of my villain era because there is a big, there's a opinion or idea, I could say, within a lot of the Dogman community and the cryptozoological paranormal community in general, that a werewolf is one thing and a Dogman is another. And if we're talking about what we know about those terms within the fictitious realm, yes, a werewolf is something that transforms into an animal from a human form and then back again. A Dogman appears to just be a biological creature. But since we already had the whole conversation about the disparate types of sightings, having already established all that, my question is, how do we know the difference? We're getting fleeting glimpses. sometimes from a distance, sometimes up close, sometimes at night, sometimes during the day. But it's not like we're following these things home to their dens and observing them. And so we're saying, well, this one's a werewolf, this one's a dogman. You know, it's possible there's more than one thing going on, but we just don't know. We just don't have any idea. And given that we know our ancestors tended to express the world around them in supernatural terms, they spoke in allegory, they, you know, exaggerated. That's how folklore works a lot of the time. It doesn't seem like too much of a stretch to me to assume that at least some of these older werewolf stories and folk tales are people describing what, if they were told in the modern day, would be dogman sightings. So that's one of the ideas I'm chasing within the book. The book is called Werewolf: The Dogman Legacy. The film is called Dogman Legacy. So both Dogman Legacy. But that's one of the ideas I'm chasing, is trying to, you know, can we draw a line between these two concepts, the dogman and the werewolf? I use those terms interchangeably. I know that annoys a lot of other dogman people. Again, I don't care. You know, once we can prove that one is one thing or one is the other, then we can try to zero in on the second option. But until then, it's an upright canine. I use the terms interchangeably, and I'm having a lot of fun exploring how those terms have kind of danced around each other the last few years and how we think about them in the modern day. So, yeah. And there's going to be some new eyewitness encounters in there. We took a trip to Defiance, Ohio, because the Defiance werewolf is one of my favorite cases of all time. I'm actually returning to some cases I talked about in Hunting Grounds and the Dogman Triangle, and I'm debunking them. I've got new information now. I've talked to different people. My opinions have changed. I no longer think they were what I thought they were. So that's going to be fun too. I'm going to debunk some of my own work, and some might say don't do that. You know, keep the message, keep the brand, but no, this is going to be fun.
Oh, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. The only thing I just got to say now is the Dogman Texas Triangle need to come on audiobook, and hopefully Dogman Legacy will be on
There's
audiobook.
thoughts of doing that. Yeah, we've talked about doing audiobooks. We've used some of the Amazon provided audiobooks, and they're fine. But I would really like to record them and narrate them myself. It's just a matter of timing, you know, having X number of hours to record and then edit and then submit and resubmit. Amazon has crazy QC stuff. I just know that from the film side of things. So, yeah, the reason I haven't done that is purely because of time, but we have talked about it. Yeah.
Everything is time, unfortunately, man, and that we do not have enough of at all. But yeah, so Aaron, you know, thank you so much for your time. And I guess lastly, for anybody that doesn't know Small Town Monsters, smalltownmonsters.com, you can check out everything there. I'm not even getting paid for this gun. You know, there's nothing for me here. Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess if you're looking to know more about the weird green mountainside, like I said, yeah, from the beyond, the high strangeness in the Bennington Triangle. If anybody wants to know why I have 2 copies, so funny story real quick. So I was a Kickstarter backer, so there's 1 copy. And because I appear in it for like a minute and 10 seconds, here's my second copy. So yeah, that's pretty much why I have 2 copies. Yeah.
Check it out. It's a good film.
Check it out. Yeah.
I'm not in it, so I can say that. It's a good film.
No, but Aaron shot like 8 seconds worth of B-roll for it. So amazing.
I did.
All right. Well, until next time, everybody, you know, maybe you should check out Aaron's work, and maybe when we just have a date for him for his return, we can maybe have you guys reach out to me, and maybe we can have some more questions, because maybe you guys can think of something that I have no idea what to even ask. I love that too, because I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Crystal asking about the specific people targeted, I mean, I probably wouldn't have thought about that, because I gave her my own take on it, and and maybe I'll just leave it as that. So my own take that I told Crystal was, that's interesting, because it all depends on your belief. And I told her maybe she should check out Martin Grove's encounter, because it seems like when he would recite in the prayer, this thing or these things, because it almost did sound like it was multiple ones. I think you described it as one was an observer and one was approaching while one was trying to distract or something like that. I think that was you in your book anyway, when you were talking about it. But anyway, the point to this is he was reciting prayer and this thing was backed off to the point where it completely went away or something to that effect. And either way, there's a lot of strange things where, like Aaron and I kind of talked about, it's like sometimes they just don't give a shit and they just walk away. Another time, I guess if they're on a bad mood, then maybe you're not in the right spot is how I'm gonna leave it. But yes, until our next chat with Aaron here, you know, like I said, check out smallmonsters.com, and I'm just going to end it like that because keep your eyes open because you just never know if a goddamn Dogman's going to come out and start chasing your car. And if that does, make sure you put the pedal to that floor because that thing will catch up pretty damn good.